The human cargo ship Busan's Pride followed its normal route through neutral space between the Vega and Altair star systems. Captain Hyjin-Oh had been running cargo between human colonies and alien trading stations for 8 years. Her crew of 12 was experienced and professional. The ship carried legal trade goods heading for markets in Zilani territory. When 3 Vorthak military ships surrounded the cargo vessel and demanded permission to board, Captain Hyjin offered no resistance. The Vorthak were acting within their authority under the new council restrictions, even though the Busan's Pride was technically traveling through neutral space. "This is Captain Hyjin-Oh of the merchant vessel Busan's Pride," she transmitted to the lead Vorthak warship. "We are carrying agricultural products and manufactured goods for delivery to Zilani colonies. You are welcome to inspect our cargo records and ship documentation." The Vorthak boarding party was led by Colonel Zethkar, a professional military officer who had been ordered to search human ships for evidence of sabotage equipment. He expected to find hidden weapons or advanced electronics that might explain the mysterious attacks on Vorthak operations. What he discovered instead was much more disturbing than anything he had imagined. The Busan's Pride carried exactly what its official records claimed. The cargo holds contained grain shipments, clothing, basic electronics, and mining equipment intended for frontier colonies. Everything was properly labeled and documented according to galactic trade regulations, but Colonel Zethkar's technical specialists found something else hidden deep in the ship's navigation computer systems. "Colonel," reported his chief analyst, "we have discovered extensive star charts stored in their computer memory. These are not standard shipping routes. They show detailed maps of Vorthak military bases, defensive positions, and communication relay stations." Colonel Zethkar examined the data with growing alarm and confusion. The charts displayed the exact locations of secret military installations that were not supposed to appear on any civilian navigation systems. Communication frequencies that were highly classified, defensive weapon positions that had never been publicly revealed. "How did they obtain this classified information?" he demanded. Captain Hyjin was brought to the command bridge for questioning. She looked at the displayed charts with apparent surprise, as if seeing them for the first time. "I am not sure how those files got there," she said with honest confusion. "Our navigation systems automatically download updated star charts from public databases at every port we visit. Perhaps some files were incorrectly labeled?" Her explanation was completely accurate. Human navigation systems did download updated information from databases at trading stations throughout the galaxy. The fact that human intelligence operatives had spent years infiltrating those databases and adding detailed military information was not mentioned. Colonel Zethkar was not satisfied with this simple explanation. "These are classified Vorthak military installations and defensive positions. This information is not available through any public database or commercial source." "I would not know about military matters," Captain Hyjin replied calmly. "We are civilian merchants. We use whatever navigation data is available to plan safe and efficient routes through space." The Vorthak colonel ordered his technical specialists to examine the ship's computer systems more thoroughly. What they discovered made the situation even more alarming. The human navigation computers contained detailed technical specifications for Vorthak military equipment, communication protocols that were supposed to be encrypted and secure, and tactical assessments of Vorthak defensive capabilities across multiple star systems. This information goes far beyond simple navigation data. Colonel Zethkar reported to his military superiors via encrypted communication channels. "These humans possess intelligence files about our military operations that are more detailed and accurate than some of our own internal reports." When confronted with this evidence, Captain Hyjin maintained her innocent explanation with calm confidence. All of that information was gathered through routine observation and publicly available sources, she insisted. "Human computer systems are very effective at analyzing and connecting different pieces of data. If we observe something during our travels, our systems automatically record and study it." This explanation was also technically truthful, though it greatly minimized the scope and sophistication of human intelligence gathering operations. For years, human merchants, diplomats, and tourists had been quietly observing and recording everything they encountered throughout galactic space. What appeared to be casual interest was actually systematic intelligence collection on an enormous scale. Every human ship that visited an alien spaceport automatically recorded the technical designs of foreign vessels they observed. Every human diplomatic mission carefully analyzed the security arrangements at government facilities they visited. Every human tourist took photographs and made observations that were later studied by military intelligence analysts. The accumulated data from thousands of such seemingly innocent activities created a comprehensive intelligence picture that no single alien species realized was being assembled. The discovery of this intelligence information in a simple civilian cargo ship triggered an immediate emergency session of the Galactic Council. Chancellor Grixtel was furious that humans had somehow obtained highly classified military information, though he could not prove it had been gathered through illegal espionage activities. "This is clearly systematic spying," he declared to the assembled representatives. "No species accidentally acquires detailed military intelligence about their neighbors through normal commercial activities." Ambassador Hyun Woo, still appearing via hologram from the colony ship New Seoul, listened to the accusations with professional calm and composure. "The information you have discovered comes from routine observation and publicly available sources," he explained reasonably. "Human computer systems are designed to automatically analyze and connect large amounts of data. This capability helps our merchants avoid dangerous areas and plan safe, efficient routes. Publicly available sources?" Chancellor Grixtel's voice rose in anger and disbelief. "The locations of secret military bases and classified defensive positions are not public information. If your military installations can be observed by civilian ships traveling through your territory, then they are not particularly secret," Ambassador Hyun Woo replied with calm logic. "We can hardly be held responsible for noticing things that are visible to anyone passing through your space." The reasoning was frustrating but difficult to dispute. If Vorthak military installations could be spotted by human merchant vessels, then technically they were observable by anyone. The fact that humans seemed to be the only species systematically collecting and analyzing such observations was suspicious but not necessarily against galactic law. "High Emissary, Kethmorn of the Zilani tried to find a diplomatic solution to the growing crisis. Perhaps this is simply a cultural misunderstanding. Different species have different approaches to gathering and using information. What appears to be espionage to one civilization might be normal curiosity to another." But Chancellor Grixtel was beyond reasonable diplomatic discussion. The weeks of mysterious sabotage attacks, combined with the discovery that humans possessed detailed intelligence about Vorthak military capabilities, had convinced him that humanity was the source of all his empire's problems. "I demand immediate and severe sanctions against the human government," he announced with finality. "They have clearly been gathering intelligence in preparation for hostile military action against the Vorthak Empire. This aggressive behavior cannot be tolerated by the galactic community." The debate that followed was intense but largely predictable. Most species sided with the powerful Vorthak Empire, either from genuine concern about human intelligence activities or simple political calculation about which side was more likely to win. The final vote to impose harsh sanctions on humanity passed by an overwhelming margin. The new restrictions went far beyond the previous trade limitations. Human ships were now completely banned from 31 star systems and faced mandatory detention and thorough search procedures in dozens more. Human diplomatic missions were expelled from several major worlds. Human businesses were prohibited from operating in large sections of controlled galactic space. When the final vote was announced, Ambassador Hyun Woo stood to deliver humanity's official response. The great meeting hall fell completely silent as representatives waited to hear how the humans would react to this diplomatic and economic isolation from galactic civilization. "The Council's decision," Ambassador Hyun Woo said in a voice that carried across the chamber with perfect clarity, "is deeply annoying." The repeated use of the specific word annoying drew quiet snickers from some delegates, who interpreted it as evidence of human weakness and inability to respond with appropriate diplomatic strength. But Commander Yexhai of the Drakmor Republic felt genuine fear at those carefully chosen words. In Drakmor military culture, enemies who spoke calmly when they should be expressing anger were considered the most dangerous opponents possible. The Drakmor had learned this lesson through painful experience during their border conflicts with humanity. 6 weeks after the mysterious problems began, Chancellor Grixtel called for an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council. The Great Hall on Station Kepler 7 filled once again with representatives from across the galaxy. This time the mood was very different from the confident atmosphere of their previous gathering. Ambassador Hyunwoo appeared as a shimmering hologram at the human delegation's table. His image was being transmitted from the colony ship New Seoul, which was conducting what human officials described as routine patrol operations in a sector 50 light-years from any Vorthak territory. The situation has become intolerable, Chancellor Grixtal announced to the assembled delegates. His yellow eyes burned with anger and frustration. These are not random equipment failures or coincidental accidents. Someone is systematically attacking Vorthak operations across multiple star systems. High Emissary Kethmorn of the Zilani Confederacy nodded in grave agreement. Her usually melodic voice carried notes of worry and confusion. The Zilani have experienced similar problems. Navigation systems failing without explanation, cargo shipments delayed by weeks, communication networks disrupted at critical moments. The timing strongly suggests coordinated attacks. The Quinn Collective buzzed loudly in their section of the hall. Their hive mind had been struggling to maintain proper connections between different parts of their civilization. Mathematical analysis indicates deliberate interference, their spokesperson announced. Probability of random occurrence is less than 3 in 1,000. Only logical conclusion is systematic sabotage. Ambassador Hyunwoo listened calmly to the growing list of complaints and accusations. Behind him in the holographic image, other humans could be seen working at computer stations aboard the New Seoul. Lieutenant Woo Jin Park was among them, though none of the alien delegates knew his name or understood his role in recent events. These are very serious allegations, Hyunwoo said, when the initial round of complaints ended. Do you have evidence about who might be responsible for these attacks? Chancellor Grixtal slammed his clawed fist against the table surface. We have no direct evidence, which only proves how sophisticated and careful these attacks have been. Only a few species possess the technology necessary for such subtle and widespread sabotage operations. Are you suggesting that humanity is involved? Hyunwoo asked. His voice remained perfectly neutral and professional. I am not making direct accusations yet, Grixtal replied, though his tone made his suspicions obvious. But human ships have been observed in several systems where problems occurred later. This statement was technically accurate. Human merchant vessels had indeed visited some of the affected regions, conducting normal trade operations weeks before any mysterious problems began. The Vorthak had not detected the military ships that arrived later, remaining invisible while they carried out their real missions. Hyunwoo activated his own holographic display, showing detailed shipping records and navigation logs. As you can see, human civilian vessels have maintained completely normal commercial activities throughout this region. Our ships follow established trade routes and file all required documentation with local authorities. The records were entirely truthful, as far as they went. Every human merchant ship had followed proper legal procedures and carried exactly the cargo listed in their official manifests. The fact that human military vessels were also operating in these areas was not mentioned, since nobody had specifically asked about military operations. Commander Yexhai of the Drakmor Republic had been listening carefully to the entire discussion. Unlike other species present, the Drakmor had direct experience fighting humans during border conflicts years earlier. Something about the current situation felt disturbingly familiar to him. Ambassador, Yexhai said, his rough voice cutting through the diplomatic conversation. The Drakmor Republic requests information about the current locations and activities of human military forces. The question created an uncomfortable pause in the meeting. Most species did not routinely track each other's military movements during peacetime, and such direct requests were considered unusually aggressive. Our naval forces are conducting standard training exercises and patrol operations in human-controlled space, Hyunwoo replied smoothly. The New Seoul, from which I am currently speaking, is positioned in the Tau Ceti system overseeing colonial security operations. This answer was completely accurate. The New Seoul was indeed located in the Tau Ceti system, and it was indeed overseeing security operations. The fact that those security operations included coordinating stealth attacks against alien infrastructure was not explicitly stated in the response. Commander Yexhai was not satisfied. With this general answer, can you provide specific locations for all human military vessels? The request was reasonable but violated standard diplomatic protocols. Peacetime military positions were usually considered classified information that independent species did not share unless required by formal treaty agreements. The Drakmor Republic is welcome to submit a formal request through established diplomatic channels, Hyunwoo said politely. However, I am sure you understand that military operational security prevents us from discussing detailed fleet positions in an open council session. High Emissary Kethmorn looked genuinely confused by this entire exchange. Surely Commander Yexhai does not seriously suspect human involvement. Their technology barely allows reliable interstellar travel, much less coordinated attacks across multiple star systems. The humans lack sufficient technical sophistication for such complex operations, agreed the Quinn Collective spokesperson. Their computer systems are primitive by current galactic standards. Their ships are slow and easily detected. Electronic warfare capabilities are minimal at best. Commander Yexhai's scales darkened to a deeper color, which indicated serious agitation among his species. He clearly remembered receiving similar confident assessments during the border conflicts, assessments that had proven completely wrong when human forces demonstrated capabilities far beyond their apparent technological limitations, but the other delegates dismissed Drakmor concerns as excessive paranoia. The Vorthak possessed detailed intelligence files on human technology, all of which confirmed that humans remained decades behind galactic standards in most important areas. The idea that such a backward species could organize sophisticated attacks was simply absurd. Chancellor Grixtal stood again, his massive form casting shadows across the council table. Whether humans are responsible or not, these attacks must be stopped immediately. I demand that the Council impose strict restrictions on all species activities in Vorthak space until the saboteurs are identified and eliminated. The proposal was extreme, essentially giving the Vorthak Emergency Authority to control all traffic throughout their territory. Several smaller species objected strongly, knowing that such restrictions would devastate their own trade operations and economic relationships. Perhaps a more measured approach would be appropriate, High Emissary Kethmorn suggested diplomatically. Enhanced security procedures and investigation protocols, rather than complete territorial restrictions. The debate continued for several hours, with different species proposing various solutions and compromises. Throughout the discussion, Ambassador Hyunwoo contributed thoughtful suggestions and expressed genuine concern for the stability of galactic commerce and peaceful relationships. He appeared to be exactly what he claimed to be, a professional diplomat trying to help solve a serious problem. Finally, Chancellor Grixtal proposed what he considered a reasonable compromise. I demand that all species with advanced technological capabilities immediately cease operations within 50 light-years of Vorthak territory until this crisis is resolved. This restriction includes human shipping activities, since human vessels have been present in affected regions. The measure was less extreme than his original proposal, but still significantly restricted human commercial operations. Several species that depended on trade relationships with human colonies would suffer serious economic losses if the restrictions were implemented. This seems like collective punishment for crimes that have not been proven, Ambassador Hyunwoo said calmly. However, humanity is willing to cooperate with reasonable security measures if they are applied equally to all species. But Chancellor Grixtal was beyond reasonable compromise. Weeks of mysterious problems and equipment failures had left him frustrated and politically vulnerable. His position within the Vorthak Empire required him to demonstrate strong leadership, and restricting human activities would show that he was taking decisive action against potential threats. The restrictions on human operations will begin immediately, he declared with finality. Human ships are banned from 17 star systems and will face mandatory inspections in 12 additional regions. This decision is not open to further negotiation. The voting proceeded quickly and predictably. Most species supported the Vorthak Empire, either because of existing alliance obligations or simple fear of becoming the next target if they opposed such a powerful faction. Only the Drakmor Republic abstained from the vote, with Commander Yexhai refusing to support measures he considered dangerously short-sighted. 3 weeks after the meeting on Station Kepler 7, strange things began happening in Vorthak space. Chief Engineer Vexmar had been running Mining Station Theta 7 for 15 years without any major problems. The station floated near a rich asteroid field, where massive machines worked day and night to extract valuable minerals. On a Tuesday morning that started like any other, everything went wrong at once. The drilling systems are showing impossible readings, Vexmar told his supervisor through the communication system. His scaled hands moved quickly over control panels that suddenly refused to work properly. The scanners say there are asteroids where we can see empty space. The ore processors are rejecting good material as contaminated waste. Within hours, 6 more mining stations reported similar problems. Equipment that had worked perfectly for decades suddenly could not perform simple tasks. Safety systems turned on and off randomly, shutting down operations for hours. Computer systems displayed error messages in languages that nobody recognized. Vexmar and his engineering teams worked desperately to fix the problems. But every repair created new issues. Replace one broken scanner and 2 more would fail. Fix a computer system and the backup computers would crash. It was like the technology itself had decided to rebel against its operators. Captain So-Young Cho watched the Vorthak emergency communications from her ship at the edge of the star system. The UES Resilience hung invisible in space, protected by stealth systems that made it impossible for alien sensors to detect. Her crew monitored enemy transmissions with quiet professional interest. "They are getting desperate," reported Chief Engineer Dong-Hyun Yu from his station. 7 mining operations have shut down in 2 days. They are calling for technical experts from 3 different sectors. Weapons Officer Mi-Ran Seo looked up from her console. "No sign they have detected our presence. Their scans are passing right through our position." Captain So-Young nodded with satisfaction. The Vorthak military still believed that human technology was primitive and weak. Their sensors were designed to find ships using energy systems similar to their own. They had never encountered human stealth technology, which worked on completely different scientific principles. "Any word from other teams?" So-Young asked. "Chiho reports successful operations in the Altair sector," Dong-Hyun replied, reading encrypted messages from other human ships. Jae-sung's group completed their mission in the Beta Centauri region yesterday. "All teams report 0 detection by enemy forces." On Earth, Fleet Admiral Jin-Ho Kang reviewed similar reports in his office in Seoul. His aide, Commander Soo-Jin Park, had collected data from 16 different operations across Vorthak territory. The pattern was clear and carefully planned. Mining efficiency down 40% in 7 star systems, Soo-Jin reported. Transport delays affecting 63% of their trade routes. Communication problems in 12 major commercial centers. No evidence of human involvement in any official records. Admiral Jin-Ho smiled grimly. "What do their intelligence services say about us?" "Still rating human capabilities as minimal threat," Soo-Jin replied. "Their latest report describes our fleet as adequate for local defense, but unsuitable for operations far from Earth." The situation would have been funny if it were not so serious. While the Vorthak struggled with mysterious equipment failures, their own military analysts continued to believe that humans were technologically inferior. They assumed that because human ships looked different from alien vessels, they must be worse. They never considered that different might mean better. Dr. Yoon-ji Nam, Director of Human Intelligence Operations, was especially pleased with the psychological aspects of the campaign. Her teams had spent years studying Vorthak behavior, learning exactly how to create pressure without triggering their natural defensive responses. "The beauty of our approach," she explained to her staff during their weekly meeting, "is that they are causing most of their own problems. We create one small failure, and their paranoia and poor communication turn it into 3 bigger failures." The problems were spreading beyond Vorthak territory. Solani cargo ships began reporting navigation errors that added weeks to their travel times. Their advanced computer systems would calculate perfect flight paths, then mysteriously develop errors that sent ships toward dangerous asteroid fields or empty regions of space. The Quinn Collective faced their own difficulties. Their hive-mind consciousness depended on constant communication between billions of individuals across multiple star systems. But their networks began experiencing interference patterns that disrupted their ability to think as one unified mind. Individual Quinn found themselves confused and uncertain without their usual mental connection to the collective. These incidents seemed completely unrelated to each other. Different star systems, different types of problems, different species affected. The only common factor appeared to be bad luck, and space was large enough that bad luck happened somewhere every day. But in hidden facilities on Earth and human colony worlds, teams of specialists monitored every incident with careful precision. Lieutenant Woojin Park, one of humanity's most skilled cyber warfare experts, coordinated electronic attacks from his station aboard the colony ship New Sol. His team could break into alien computer systems, plant disruptive programs, and steal information without leaving any trace of human involvement. The Vorthak are asking the Drakmor Republic for technical help, Wu Jin reported during a secure communication with Earth. They still think everything is equipment failure. The Drakmor response was interesting. Unlike other species, they seemed suspicious about the timing of recent events. Commander Yexhai, their military representative, had sent encrypted messages to the Drakmor homeworld, expressing concern about unusual patterns in galactic incidents. Dr. Yunji made careful notes about this development. The Drakmor had fought small wars with humans in the past. They might remember how those conflicts had developed. Unlike the Vorthak and Zelani, the Drakmor had actual experience with human military capabilities. "We need to be more careful around Drakmor space," she advised her field teams. "They are not as easily fooled as the others." As the mysterious problems continued, some alien investigators began connecting different incidents. A few Vorthak intelligence officers noticed that equipment failures seemed to follow certain patterns. Zelani security experts wondered if their navigation problems might be coordinated attacks rather than random technical errors. But their reports were dismissed by higher authorities. The idea that humans could organize such complex operations across multiple star systems was considered impossible. Human ships were too slow, human technology too basic, human organization too simple for such sophisticated activities. This dismissal was exactly what human planners had expected. Every species in the galaxy had detailed files about human capabilities, but those files were based only on what humans had chosen to reveal during peaceful contact with alien civilizations. The aliens saw human merchant ships and civilian transports, then assumed these represented the best that humanity could build. They had never seen human military vessels operating with full stealth systems active. They had never encountered human cyber warfare specialists or intelligence operatives. They had never experienced what humans could accomplish when they decided to stop being diplomatic and start being efficient. Captain So Young received new orders as her mission in the Kepler system ended successfully. The Resilience would move to the Proxima sector, where Vorthak forces were beginning to suspect sabotage. Her job was to make those suspicions seem foolish by ensuring that problems continued even when human ships were clearly operating elsewhere. "Engineering. How long until we can jump to the next system?" she asked. 30 minutes to charge the quantum drive," Donghyun replied. "The Vorthak will never know we were here." As the human ship prepared to leave, a Vorthak patrol vessel passed within a few hundred kilometers. Its sensors swept the area carefully, looking for any sign of foreign ships or unusual activity. The scan passed directly through the Resilience's position without detecting anything suspicious. The Vorthak captain filed a routine report that the region was clear of any unauthorized vessels. If he had known that a fully armed human warship had been watching Vorthak mining operations for 3 weeks, the entire course of galactic history might have been different, but the Vorthak continued to believe that human technology was inferior to their own, and that belief was about to cost them everything. On Earth, Admiral Jin Ho reviewed the latest intelligence reports with quiet satisfaction. The first phase of operations was proceeding exactly as planned. The Vorthak were frustrated and confused, but not yet truly alarmed. They still believed their problems were technical difficulties rather than acts of war. "How long before they realize what is really happening?" Commander Su Jin asked. Admiral Jin Ho looked out his window at the city of Seoul, where millions of people went about their daily lives unaware that their species was at war. "They will figure it out eventually," he said. "But by then it will be too late for them to do anything about it." That was about to change. The Vorthak Empire was powerful and proud, but they were not stupid. The silver walls of Station Kepler 7 stretched into the darkness of space. The massive structure floated between 3 star systems, a neutral meeting place where different species could gather safely. Today was important. Representatives from dozens of worlds had come to discuss trade agreements and mining rights. Ambassador Hyunwoo Park walked slowly through the station's long corridors. His black suit was neat and clean, and his face showed no emotion. Behind him came his aide, a young woman named Jina Kim. She carried folders full of documents and data tablets. Next to them walked Taemin Lee, a military advisor whose eyes never stopped watching everything around them. The human delegation moved with quiet confidence. They had prepared for months for these talks. Earth needed access to rare minerals found in the asteroid belt known as XK7739. These materials were essential for building new colonies and expanding human civilization into space. Remember, Hyunwoo said quietly to his team, the Vorthak control this sector. They will try to make us feel small and unimportant. Stay calm no matter what they say. Jina nodded nervously. She had read all the reports about the Vorthak Empire. They were large, powerful, and treated most other species with contempt. Their military controlled dozens of star systems, and their mining operations were some of the largest in the galaxy. What if they refused to negotiate at all? She asked. Hyunwoo smiled slightly. Then we will be polite and ask again. The meeting hall was enormous. A circular table dominated the center, large enough for hundreds of delegates. Holographic displays showed star charts and technical data. The air hummed with translation devices that allowed different species to understand each other. The Vorthak delegation had already taken their seats at the head of the table. Chancellor Grixtal was their leader, a massive reptilian creature with dark green scales and cold yellow eyes. His armor was decorated with symbols of rank and power. Around him sat other Vorthak officials, all watching the gathering with obvious superiority. The Zelani Confederacy occupied another section of the table. These blue-skinned humanoids wore flowing robes and spoke in musical voices. Their leader, High Emissary Kethmorn, was known for her diplomatic skills and careful words. The Quinn Collective clustered together in their assigned area. These insect-like beings thought as one mind across multiple bodies. Their compound eyes reflected the room's lights as they calculated and analyzed everything they observed. Many other species filled the remaining seats. Some were allies of the major powers, while others were independent worlds hoping to benefit from the negotiations. All of them had been traveling between stars for centuries. All of them saw humans as newcomers who had barely learned to leave their home planet. Hyunwoo took his seat in the section marked for Earth. The human delegation looked small compared to the alien representatives around them. Other species barely glanced at the humans, considering them unimportant in galactic affairs. Chancellor Grixtal stood up. His massive form cast shadows across the table as he began to speak. We are here to discuss mining rights in asteroid belt XK7739, he announced in a deep, commanding voice. The Vorthak Empire has protected this region for 300 years. We will listen to proposals, but remember that we make the final decisions in our territory. Several smaller species presented their cases first. Each time, the Chancellor asked harsh questions and demanded most of the profits for the Vorthak Empire. The alien representatives agreed quickly. Afraid to anger such a powerful species, their mining rights would barely cover their costs, but they needed access to the resources. Finally, it was humanity's turn to speak. Hyunwoo activated a holographic display that showed detailed information about the asteroid belt. The images were clear and professional, demonstrating careful preparation. Honored representatives, Hyunwoo began, humanity requests mining rights to 30% of asteroids in belt XK7739. We offer fair payment, advanced mining techniques that will increase total output, and profit sharing that benefits all participants. The presentation was thorough and well organized. Gina had spent weeks gathering data and preparing charts. The human proposal showed how their mining technology could extract resources more efficiently than current methods. They offered the Vorthak 60% of all profits while taking only 20% themselves. The remaining 20% would go to a development fund for smaller species. Chancellor Grixtal listened with obvious boredom. He made dismissive sounds and rolled his yellow eyes. When Hyunwoo finished speaking, the Vorthak leader began to laugh. The sound was loud and mocking, echoing through the great hall. Humans, Grixtal said with complete contempt. You have been traveling in space for what, 50 years? We have been mining asteroids since before your species discovered fire. The arrogance is incredible. He stood to his full height, towering over the table. Your proposal shows typical human ignorance. You think your primitive technology can improve methods that have been perfected over centuries. Your ships can barely reach this sector, yet you want to compete with the greatest mining operations in the galaxy. High Emissary Kethmorn spoke up, her voice carrying clearly across the room. The Chancellor raises important concerns. Human technology is still very basic compared to established galactic standards. Perhaps a smaller allocation would be more reasonable, maybe 5% of the asteroid belt. The Quinn Collective buzzed in agreement. Their hive mind reached consensus quickly. Human capabilities are insufficient for large-scale operations. Risk of interference with established mining patterns is unacceptable. Other species joined the criticism. They shared stories about human mistakes and technical failures. Some mentioned reports of human ships getting lost in space or breaking down far from help. The general opinion was that humans were brave but incompetent, trying to do things they didn't understand. Hyunwoo remained perfectly calm throughout the insults. His hands rested steadily on the table and his expression never changed. Gina noticed that Taemin had stopped taking notes. The military advisor sat very still, his pen motionless on his tablet. "We understand your concerns," Hyunwoo said politely when the laughter died down. "However, our proposal includes safety measures and coordination systems to prevent any problems. We have operated successful mining operations in our own solar system for 20 years. This only made Chancellor Grixtal laugh harder. "Your own solar system? You mean those few rocky planets around your unremarkable star? That is hardly comparable to real galactic-scale mining operations." The insults continued for another hour. The Vorthak Chancellor called humans barely evolved animals who should return to their farms. He described human technology as held together with wire and hope, and human ships as flying garbage that pollutes space. Other delegates added their own mockery. They joked about human ignorance and shared exaggerated stories of human failures. The Zilani mentioned navigation errors that had sent human ships in wrong directions. The Quinn Collective calculated the mathematical probability of human success as effectively 0. Through all of this, Hyunwoo sat without moving. His breathing stayed steady and his hands remained still on the table. Gina could see that Taemin's usually alert posture had become completely motionless, like a predator waiting to strike. "Chancellor," Hyunwoo said finally, when the insults and laughter began to fade, "are you saying that humanity's proposal is rejected?" Grixtal's yellow eyes gleamed with amusement. "Rejected? I would not waste energy to formally reject such nonsense. Humans should go back to their little blue world and leave real work to species that know what they are doing. Come back in a few hundred years when you have learned to build actual spaceships." The other delegations murmured their agreement. Even species that had seemed neutral now supported the Vorthak position. None of them wanted to anger such a powerful empire over some unimportant humans. Hyunwoo stood slowly and carefully gathered his papers. Gina and Taemin rose with him, their faces showing professional calm. The human ambassador looked directly at Chancellor Grixtal, meeting those cold yellow eyes without fear or anger. "We find your decision," Hyunwoo said in a perfectly level voice. "Annoying." The words seemed to hang in the air for a moment. Then the alien delegates began laughing again, even louder than before. Such a mild response from creatures known for emotional outbursts seemed pathetic to them. Most species had expected the humans to shout or make threats or storm out angrily. "Annoying," Chancellor Grixtal repeated, slapping the table with his clawed hand. "The mighty humans are annoyed. How terrifying." The Zilani delegation giggled like musical bells. Even the serious Quinn Collective buzzed with what might have been amusement. As the human delegation walked toward the exit, alien representatives continued making jokes about human weakness and their laughably mild complaints. None of them noticed that Taemin's stillness had become absolute, like a machine that had been turned off. None of them saw that Gina's nervous habits had stopped completely. And none of them caught the brief cold smile that crossed Hyunwoo's face as the meeting hall doors closed behind them. Every major species had detailed psychological profiles of human behavior. 72 hours after the Council's final ultimatum, the galaxy discovered what happened when humans stopped being polite. The attack began not with explosions or dramatic fleet movements, but with complete silence. At exactly 8 o'clock Standard Galactic Time, every major communication network in Vorthak space simply stopped working. Military frequencies went dead. Commercial channels disappeared. Emergency broadcast cut off in the middle of transmission. Chancellor Grixtal was in his command center on the Vorthak homeworld when the communications blackout struck. One moment he was reviewing patrol reports from ships enforcing the new restrictions on human vessels. The next moment, every screen in the room displayed nothing but empty static. "What is happening?" he demanded of his technical staff, his voice rising with alarm. Chief Communications Officer Murtek worked frantically at his control panel, trying desperately to reach other military installations. "All networks are completely down," he reported with growing panic in his voice. "Military communications, civilian channels, emergency systems, everything is offline simultaneously. On Vorthak military vessels throughout their territory, commanders found themselves completely isolated from their command structure. Ships that had maintained constant communication with fleet headquarters for decades now drifted alone in space, unable to contact anyone beyond their own crew members. The sophisticated command and control networks that held the entire Vorthak Empire together had simply vanished without explanation. But the communication failures were only the beginning of their problems. Admiral Seok-jin Bay watched the opening stages of the operation from the bridge of his flagship, the Incheon Rising. Unlike the sleek alien warships with their elegant curves and bright energy weapons, human military vessels looked blocky and industrial. The Incheon Rising's hull was gray metal covered with sensor arrays and communication equipment that most alien observers had always dismissed as primitive technology. Those observers had never seen what happened when human ships finally dropped their carefully maintained disguises, all stealth units. "Report your current status," Admiral Bay commanded calmly. Across dozens of star systems, human captains responded through quantum communication networks that alien technology could not detect or interfere with. Captain So Young of the Resilience confirmed her position inside the main Vorthak naval base. Captain Minho of the Soul's Fury reported ready to strike critical supply depots. Captain Airy of the Pusan Defender had successfully infiltrated the heart of Zilani space. For months, these ships had operated in perfect stealth mode, carefully studying alien defenses and positioning themselves for this exact moment. While alien intelligence services continued to file reports about primitive human technology, advanced human warships had been moving freely through their most secure and protected regions of space. "Execute the second phase of operations," Admiral Bay ordered. The Vorthak home fleet was the pride of their entire military organization. 50 massive dreadnought warships equipped with the most powerful plasma weapons in the known galaxy. Their defensive shields could deflect direct asteroid impacts, and their armor plating could withstand hits from the largest energy cannons. No enemy fleet had ever successfully challenged them in open battle throughout their long history, which was exactly why the humans did not challenge them in open battle. Captain So Young initiated her attack from inside the Vorthak naval base, her ship still completely invisible to their sensor systems. But instead of firing conventional weapons at the dreadnoughts, she targeted something much more fundamental and critical: the mathematical principles that made their technology function properly. Human cyber warfare specialists had spent decades studying alien computer systems, learning not just how they operated, but understanding the basic scientific principles that made them work. Every species in the galaxy used mathematics and physics that followed predictable, logical patterns. Change those underlying patterns, and their technology would fail in ways they never expected or prepared for. The first Vorthak dreadnought began experiencing what its crew reported as completely impossible navigation errors. The ship's computers calculated perfectly reasonable flight paths that somehow led directly into dangerous asteroid fields. Weapon targeting systems aimed carefully at empty regions of space, while enemy contacts appeared in completely different locations than predicted. Within minutes, half the home fleet was effectively disabled, not by battle damage but by their own equipment refusing to obey the laws of physics as they understood them. Captains who had commanded warships for decades found their vessels behaving like amateur training craft, piloted by confused new recruits. "This is impossible," Admiral Korthvan of the Vorthak home fleet transmitted on emergency frequencies that no longer worked properly. "Our computers are providing readings that violate basic scientific principles." He was wrong, of course. The fundamental laws of physics had not changed at all, but human scientists had developed a much more sophisticated and complete understanding of reality than their alien counterparts possessed. While other species had focused on perfecting energy weapons and defensive shield technology, humans had learned to manipulate probability mathematics and quantum uncertainty, principles in ways that seemed like magic to less advanced civilizations. The coordinated attacks spread rapidly across Vorthak space and beyond. Mining stations found their equipment producing materials that seemed to violate conservation of energy laws. Defense platforms calculated firing solutions that somehow missed targets positioned directly in front of them. Entire starbases lost the ability to distinguish between Allied vessels and enemy ships. But the psychological warfare was even more devastating than the technical attacks. Dr. Mi-jin Lee had spent 20 years studying alien psychology and behavior patterns, focusing particularly on how different species responded to stress and unexpected situations. Her detailed research reports were now being implemented across the entire human fleet, targeting the specific mental weaknesses and cultural vulnerabilities of each enemy species. Vorthak society was built around concepts of individual achievement and personal honor. Their military commanders were chosen specifically for their ability to lead through displays of strength and personal charisma. Dr. Mi-jin's teams exploited this cultural weakness by ensuring that each Vorthak officer's failures and mistakes became publicly visible to all their subordinates. Communication systems that still functioned began broadcasting embarrassing personal messages from Vorthak commanders. Military reports detailing their strategic errors were transmitted on frequencies that every ordinary soldier could access and read. The proud hierarchical structure of Vorthak society began collapsing as common soldiers lost respect for leaders who appeared completely incompetent. The Zilani Confederacy faced a different type of psychological attack designed for their specific cultural weaknesses. Their civilization depended heavily on consensus building and group harmony for making important decisions. When their communication networks became flooded with contradictory information and competing instructions from different sources, the Zilani government found itself completely paralyzed by an inability to reach agreement on any course of action. The Quinn Collective suffered the worst psychological damage of all. Their hive-mind consciousness required constant communication between billions of individual organisms across multiple star systems. Human interference with their networks did not just disrupt their military coordination, it fragmented their entire species into confused, isolated individuals who had never learned to think independently. Without the collective mind, Chancellor Grixtel finally managed to establish limited communication with some of his surviving military units after 6 hours of complete chaos and confusion. What he learned from these reports filled him with growing despair and terror. 60% of our entire fleet is disabled or completely destroyed, reported Admiral Korthvan, from one of the few dreadnoughts still functioning properly. We cannot determine actual enemy positions because our sensors provide contradictory readings. Our weapons target incorrect coordinates. Our defensive shields activate randomly and then fail without any warning. What about reinforcement fleets from the outer system colonies? Chancellor Grixtal demanded desperately. No contact with outer system military commands, Admiral Korthvan replied grimly. All long-range communication networks are still completely down. We do not know if they are under similar attacks or simply unable to respond to our situation. The truth was far worse than either of them could imagine. Human forces had simultaneously struck targets across 17 different star systems, coordinating their attacks with a precision that seemed impossible for ships operating independently across such vast distances. Each human captain knew exactly when and where to strike, for maximum psychological and strategic effect, guided by intelligence networks and communication systems that alien forces could not detect, intercept, or interfere with. As detailed reports finally began filtering in from across Vorthak territory, the true scope of the disaster became horrifyingly clear. This was not a conventional battle in any traditional military sense. The humans had systematically dismantled the technological, organizational, and